We used to get complaints from the neighbors. And the police actually came, and they would sit across the street, and they had a decibel gun that could measure how loud, and if you were over certain 14 decibels or whatever it was, that was considered too much. And so they would be there every day at Mangalarti time. So I had a couple devotees, some nice Matajis, after Mangalarti, just zip over there and take them a little sandesh and burfi. So they were there for about a week, and every day they were getting sandesh and burfi. And after cause I asked, we talked, and they said we have to do this for a week. So they did it for a week, but they still showed up right after Mangalarti, but with no decibel gun. But it turns out what they told us was that they were just ending their shift, and they would just swing by, park over there, and get some nice prasadam, and then go home. They became addicted to prasadam. Instead of donuts, they were going for burfi and sandesh. No, did you give up? That I discouraged you? Jaya Radha Madhava Hari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari Gopijanna Balava Girivanadari Gopijanna Balava Girivanadari Jasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamunitira Vanatari Jamuna Tiravunatari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijanna Balava Girivanadari Jasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tiravunatari Jamuna Tiravunatari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama
Rama Rama Hare Hare. Boom. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Boom. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. O Premanandi. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Padiva Jagacharya Siddhat Shisham and His Divine Grace Abhaichara and Bhakti Vedanta Sai Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Jagaguru Srila Prabhupada Ki. Anantakota Vaishnava Vrinda Ki. Nam Acharya Shrihadas Thakur Ki. Prem Shikoho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Dvaita Gadada Shiva Sadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopina Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Gita Govardhan Ki. Vrindavan Dham Ki. Mathura Dham Ki. Dwarka Dham Ki. Navadi Dham Ki. Jagannathpuri Dham Ki. Jamuna Mai Ki. Ganga Mai Ki. Tulsi Maharani Ki. Bhakti Devi Ki. Samveda Bhakti Vrinda Ki. Srila Prabhupada Ki. Say Radha Giridhari Ki. Shri Krishna Sankirtana Jaga Ki. Go Premanandi. I think, Jamal Prabhu, that you must have been a Bengali in a previous life. Yeah, you're a good drum player. It's just instinctive, you know. You're just something picking up from a last life. Anyway, who knows? And who cares? Because whoever you were in the past, what matters is what you do now. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayana Namaskritchandanam Chaivam Narottama Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jaya Mutirayat Krishna Sadamo Bhagate Damaganadi Bisaha Kalana Sadasham Mesha Parano Konadodata. The Bhagavatam is as brilliant as the sun, is arisen just after the departure of Lord Krishna to his own abode, accompanied with knowledge, religion, etc. Persons who have lost their vision to the dense darkness of the age of Kali shall get light out of this Purana. Before beginning a study of srimadbhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, we should first offer respects to the personality of God in Narayan, to the Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, the goddess of living Mother Saraswati, and the author Srila Vyasadeva. So we are on the second verse of the 25th chapter of the 4th canto, and we're just launching into the story of Paranjana. But what's actually, it's the story of Paranjana, but who's speaking? Okay, very good.
And for 10 extra points, other than Vijay, who is Narada Muni speaking to? Maharaj Prachini Barshat. So, and as Balaram was explaining yesterday, it's a allegory. And why is it an allegory? Because the king was too proud to hear. And sometimes you criticize. As someone's intoxicated, you give them good instruction. Chanaka Pandit says, you can turn this up just a pinch. Just a pinch. Otherwise, I'll lose my voice. So if you give an intoxicated person instruction, what happens? They just get angry. So to be careful, Narada Muni, thanks Prabhu, as an expert preacher is giving him a nice storyline. And it works, actually. He picks up on it. Okay, so here's the verse, chapter 2. Rudra Geetam Bhagavata Stotram Sarve Prachetasa Japantas Te Tapas Te Pur Varshanam Ayutam Jale Rudrigitam Bhagavata Stotram Sarve Prachetasa Japantaste Tapaste Pur Varshanam Ayutam Jale Varshanam Rudragitam Bhagavata Stotram Sarve Prachetasa Japantaste Tapaste Pur Varshanam Ayutam Jale Rudragitam Bhagavata Stotram Sarve Prachetasa Japantaste Tapaste Pur Varshanam Ayutam Jale. Rudra Geetam, the song sung by Lord Shiva. Bhagavata, of the Lord. Stotram, prayer. Sarve, all. Prachetasa, the princes known as the Prachetas. Japanta, reciting. Te, all of them. Tapa, austerity. Tepu, executed. Varshanam, of years. Ayutam, 10,000. Jale, within the water. Translation. All the Pracheta princes simply stood in the water for 10,000 years and recited the prayers given to them by Lord Shiva. Also you say, all the Pracheta princes simply stood in the water for 10,000 years and recited the prayers given to them by Lord Shiva. Purport. Of course, in modern age, one may be amazed how the princes could stand in the water for 10,000 years. However, living within air or living within water is the same process. One simply has to learn how to do it. The aquatics live within the water for their whole lifespan. Certainly, favorable conditions are created to enable them to live within the water. In those days, however, people used to live for 100,000 years. Out of so many years, if one could spare 10,000 years for the sake of austerity, he would be assured of success in his future life. This was not very astonishing. Although such a feat is impossible in this age, it was quite possible in SanDiego. Om Gena Tamarandasya Gena Gena Salakaya Jakshushmadan Gena Tazarishi Gurave Namaha. Just in the way of invocation, this, as Balaram was saying yesterday, we are just at the beginning of a wonderful storyline. It's the beauty and depth of the Bhagavatam, as we've mentioned before, and we'll mention again. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, if all the books of the world were lost and only the Bhagavatam remained, no knowledge would be lost. And here it's being in this, there's poetry, there's romance, whatever you're interested in. It's all there in the Bhagavatam. There's plot reversals. There's a devotee. His name is, what is his name? He's one of Prithu's sons, Madan Mohan. Madan something. And, I think that's his name, yeah. And he was telling me, because he took screenwriting, screenplay writing at USC, which is one of the best film schools in the world, actually. And there's only like 6 or 7 stories. Boy finds girl, boy loses girl, boy gets girl back. The protagonist, he's up against, everything's smooth, he has a great loss, and he has to overcome that loss, and because of it, by that process, he becomes a better person. There's only so many stories, and there's different flavors and mixes, like you can, scramble them up like I don't know what. But all of those themes are found in the Bhagavatam. It is better than Shakespeare. It is better than, I don't know what they're watching now. Game of Thrones is the big one they've got now, which have no... What's the purport of the thing? Not only is I was saying that there's a saying that, we say in America to accomplish 2 things with 1 act. They say to kill 2 birds with 1 stone, which is really quite a grotesque and example. So Prabhupada used an example that actually works on a number of levels. It's an Orisan saying, and it's, I saw the wrath and I sold my bananas. Anyone know what that means? Farmer goes into town, sets up his little stand, sells his bananas, so he makes a material profit, and simultaneously he gets to see the blissful Rathiatra, Lord Jagannath, so he gets a spiritual and a material benefit. So I saw the wrath and sold my bananas. So in the Bhagavatam, adventure, where will you find villains like Hiranyakasipu or, Ravana with 9 heads, the shape shit, everything. I don't want to spend too much time on this, but the point is that if we actually step back and look at the beauty and depth of Srimad Bhagavatam, there's no other literature that even comes close. What to speak of by reading Bhagavatam, one becomes liberated and goes back to Godhead. So it's a great ride and the ultimate destination found in the pages of Bhagavatam. One simply has to have the ears to hear. So there's that. So this business of living under the water for 10,000 years, come on, But the fact of the matter is, it's just a matter of suspending the breath. There are frogs, yes, that the whole pond will freeze. They bury themselves in mud. There's a number. There's fish that do this. A number. I think snakes can do it, and they're actually they stop breathing. Their whole body practically freezes. I think there's a little something left ticking. I don't know what it is. Like the yogis, even the Hiranyakasipu, all the skin was gone, but there was he kept his life hairs within the marrow of the bone. So I don't know the exact technique, and I'm not going to spend time trying to figure it out. But it's, Yeah, for years. There's Sariputta Prabhu, my hero. He had a file cabinet. He had several file cabinets just full of bizarre things. And there were some coal workers in Poland or something, deep in a coal mine, split open a piece of coal. Been under the ground for, since the whatever age, And they split open the big rock of coal. A frog jumped out. He jumped about 4 jumps and dropped dead. But he'd been living in there for, 100,000 years. I mean, you don't have to believe that, but it's true. It was there in the newspaper. But the ability to suspend the breath, we find that even now amongst different animals. So on one hand, it's not that significant. People are impressed by a little magic trick, but really, it's not that big. Prabhupada's godbrother, Sadananda, was a German scientist. Prabhupada's godbrother, disciple of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And he went to India, studied all the different mystic cities. There's primarily 8 mystic cities, flying in the air and this and that travel through anything. And he said by modern science, they're actually either mastered these in their own gross way, but so what is the use? The materialists are doing it. There must be something more. And therefore he searched deeper into the Vedas and came across bhakti and pure devotional service and ultimately surrendered to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. So this is intelligent. I'll give you another example from Sariputta's files. This one is more recent. This was about 1965. One of the, we hear about these. Dhritarashtra gave up his body by mystic fire, right? Sita, not Sita. Sita, that's another story. But Parvati, she also gave up by mystic fire. Of course, she's Durga Devi. But anyway, even we have different yogis who gave up their. Dhritarashtra, who else gave up their body by mystic fire? Consumed. Anyway, these things are going on. So, fast forward 1965. I mean, you expect me to believe that? It was recorded in the paper of record, what's it called? Le Monde in France. It's like the Times, New York Times. It's the paper of record. And the daughter of the finance minister of France, so top echelon of society, in top there it is. You could probably see, it's 1960, I think 65, 66, something like that. But the daughter of the finance minister of France, top Catholic school, is brushing her teeth before she goes to bed, brushing her teeth. Burst into flame. Nothing was left but the toothbrush and the ash and the slippers, unsinged. Now, to burn a body, you ever been to a crematorium and had that little box they give you with the ashes? It kind of shakes like gravel. Yeah, it does. Is it right, Ram? Shakes like gravel. Because not all the bone chips, I think with these different bones that don't, and it's 2,000 degrees. So this young girl, I don't know her age, she was like 13, 14, something like that, burst into flames. But her slippers and her toothbrush were unsinged. Can you imagine the head nun having to call the family, say, "Oh, we had a little accident here, and your daughter, what? Oh, you can come get the toothbrush." And so she must have, I don't mean to be graphic, but she must have, it has something to do with the life airs. The yogis block up the different holes. They launch out the Brahmaranda. There's a way of doing it. In different chakras and raise the life air up and blast out the top of the head. Most people, Prabhupada said, they leave out through the mouth. If you're very sinful, the soul leaves the body at the time of death out the anus. And the great yogis, they can launch out the top of their head. So she must have burped, sneezed, coughed, and farted at the same time. I'm sorry to be graphic, but And it was a perfect storm. It just, the life airs lined up and boom. So my point being, a little far afield, but my point being, it's just a materially mechanistic process. And if you know the process, you pull the right levers and the right gears, boom, So it's not something sublime. It is not transcendental. I remember the devotees telling me, I was talking about yoga and this and that. And they said, bhakti is a completely different dynamic. And the devotee gave the example, because somebody in those days, everyone was taking LSD and mescaline, and it was supposed to be some kind of, spiritual journey and all this stuff. And I remember the devotee saying to this one hippie, you can't, Sukadev told him, he says, you can't go to the moon in an air balloon. Okay, you can go a certain distance in the sky, but you're never going to reach the moon. So, okay, fine, you may awaken some memories from a past life, or who knows what may happen. It's usually just a scramble. It's like reading a Dr. Bronner's soap label, on the... But anyway, but it's not transcendental. It's not going to take you that which is beyond matter. Anyway, we'll proceed. Here we find what's necessary. We are not going to be able to do it on our own. I only know what I know. I can't... Like if you have a set of numbers, you can't have a subset of those numbers that contain anything that's not in the original number. If I only have so many colors in my coloring box, I'm only going to get so many shades. I can't, if I don't have, it's not going to happen. If I don't have if I'm cooking a sabji and all this in the oven, all in the wok-in is potatoes, peas, and tomatoes. Well, I'm going to make a tomato pea, but I'm not going to automatically, mystically combine them and get a cauliflower. I don't have the ingredients there. So we can juggle if someone's been born blind, how do you explain the color blue to them? Think about that for a minute. How would you explain that to someone who has never seen? You can't say it's like the sky. They've never seen it. You can't say, well, if you just picture green and yellow and kind of merged, a little bit lighter. They have no reference point. You follow me? In a similar fashion, within this material world, by yoga or jnana, or by a self-propelled ascending process, you'll never understand the absolute. You'll never understand transcendence. The best they can come up with is some impersonal concept. You find the best, whether they're Muslim or Jewish or Christian scholars, the ones who are really deep thinkers, they can understand they're not this body, and there must be they come to some kind of super soul realization that there's something that's maintaining, sustaining, that's control, like first step in God realization. They'll have some. But to understand that Krishna's blue and playing a flute, dancing with the gopis, he's got the cowherd boys riding on his shoulders, he comes as Das avatars, we're never going to come up with that on our own. So here we see that the Prachetas, they were successful because they simply followed. Prabhupada uses the translation, has the word simply. They simply followed. It's the most difficult thing in the age of Kali, is to simply, Prabhupada gives the example of the woodcutter. This woodcutter example? Here's the tree. I saw Prabhupada do it. Here's the tree. Here's the branch. So the guy's sitting here, right? Here's the trunk. Here's the branch. Guy's sitting here, and he's sawing. What's wrong with this picture, Bhakti Alex? Yeah, he's going to fall and crack his head. So some kind, good Samaritan comes along and says, hey, my friend, that's really not the way to go at it. You're going to fall and crack your head. The guy says, oh, you went to wood chopping, you? I mean, who you? Are you a woodcutter? Yeah. So the guy keeps sawing away, falls, cracks his head, sees the man who gave him the good advice, but being too proud to admit it. He says, oh, you must be a great astrologer. You can see the future. You won't admit that I was just a dummy and wouldn't take good advice. But that, especially in Kali Yuga, it pervades all of us. If, Prabhupada says, a woman, generally speaking, pious, now it's decreasing, they killed the baby in the womb, but in a pious person, pious lady, she gets married, she wants a kid. Doesn't happen automatically. This is Rupa Goswami's example from Upadeshamrita, But you can have the wife who wants a child. Of course, now they have artificial insemination, all this stuff, but still the principle is the same. Even you go to artificial insemination. What does there need to be for the woman to give birth? Don't overthink it. Yeah, well, okay, fine. Balaram's right. She has to be fertile, but even if she's fertile, what else has to happen? You have to have a seed from a man. Then there'll be the conception of a child. So Prabhupada makes the point that the disciple has to be sincere. Here we find the Prachetas. They simply followed the good instruction. They followed a Mahajan. Who else are we going to follow? You're going to follow the latest person on the cover of People magazine? Or are you going to follow Camus? What do you do, commit suicide? Or, your Stoics, just learn to tolerate. Stand like a tree, be tolerant. That's the sign of how much you can tolerate. You just stand there like a stone. Well, are we dead trees? I mean, are we inanimate, immovable trees? What's that all about? It's not a philosophy. Or anything of any depth, really. So, if we only can know what we know, and all like the person who cannot conceive blue because they're blind, if all we've experienced is this material world, okay, past life regression, well, what's that going to get you? It's just going to take you back. You're just shuffling around. You're just sitting on a different animal on the carousel. You're sitting in the tiger, now you're sitting on the donkey, now you're sitting on the, unicorn. But you're on the same merry-go-round. So unless we hear from someone who is transcendental, what is tadvidhi pranipatena? You know the verse in Bhagavad Gita. What is the English translation of the last line? Tattvadarshana. What is it? They've seen the truth. Unless we hear from someone it's just logic, common sense, really. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur says common sense, that rare commodity in the age of Kali. Most people they're not thinking much. I mean, if you've got to have a message on the cigarette pack that says, smoke this and you will drop dead. And they're just puffing away. So many things. Alcohol. Where do you want to start? How many stupid things do people do? There it is. So in Kali Yuga, but the simple point is to recognize that let me hear from someone who's giving me the message of transcendence beyond this material world. And then I simply have to follow. I can't speculate. You have to follow. Because what do I know? They say a stop clock is right twice a day. And this is their logic. Their logic is, will you just throw the dice enough times? You just mix the chemicals. Of course, where did the chemicals come from and all this stuff? The creation, the singularity, and then chemical evolution. That over enough time, you'll eventually get life, and life will evolve, and then ultimately you'll get consciousness, and you'll have us walking around talking philosophy. It's craziness, really. We don't have time to go into that. But the thing is that one needs to simply follow those who know. And then one will be successful. And we have a few more minutes. Let's see. I was thinking about this. we see this austerity that they performed. Just as a sidelight, 10,000 years meditating. So we're thinking, geez, I don't have 10,000 years. We live at the most 180, 60, 70. That's if we make it out of the womb or don't die making toast, or whatever we were talking about the other day. So, maybe at your best shot, you got 100 years. So is that a misfortunate thing? Let me give you a hint. Is it in Kali Yuga, these great sages, they could spend 10,000, they're undisturbed, right? No, you're not going to hear a phone ringing, or like when I was trying to do my meditation and the drink Coca-Cola plane went over with a banner, or your cell phone's going to ring. Just because it's fun. Dharma Sethu and I were at a funeral. And, before they cremate the body, the guy's there in the box. It was a guy, and he's in there in the box, viewing, everybody goes up and wails and sobs and, or in the back of their mind, they're thinking, what's in the will, or, whatever it is. So but anyway, and everyone was going up to the, a eulogy. They speak, try to glorify the person. Everyone's going up to the podium and saying how this man was always on call. You could always reach him. You could call him in the middle of the night. If you were thrown in the jail in Timbuktu, you call him. He was the guy who was going to get you out. You could always count on him. He was always on call. And as they were, so that 4 or 5 people saying the same basic theme, all of a sudden we heard this bring, 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 bring. Phone's ringing, right? Everybody looked around. It wasn't their phone. Dharma Sethu realized they buried the guy in his suit. They had him in his box in his suit, and his cell phone was still charged in his pocket. Dharma had to discreetly reach in. It's a little awkward moment. Had to reach in and shut off the phone, right? So the next person was given the eulogy. Dharma Sethu leaned over to me and said, "Well, he's out of range now." You're not going to be able to reach him. You can call, but but nobody's picking up. So I don't know how exactly we got off on that, but the austerity. I was talking about austerity. So we'll just. That's where I wanted to go. So if we talk about 10,000 years, we don't even live 100 years. How long do we have to live? So it may appear to be a misfortunate thing to be born in the age of Kali. We don't have 10,000 years to meditate. That was it, under the water with no phone ringing and no distraction. But why do the demigods, Prabhupada said, they're lined up to take birth in the age of Kali on the planet Earth? What? Wouldn't it be better to be born in Satya Yuga and you got your 10,000 years and it's Satya? What do you think? Anyone? Am I making a misstatement here, sitting on the Vyasasana? Better to be born in Kali Yuga? What? What do you have to say about this? Because in a very short period, one can meet, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was practically just here. One can meet the followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. We can take up the simple chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra, simple and sublime, Prabhupada used to say. And within a few years, you can go back to Godhead. We don't have to sit underwater for 10,000 years. And who was it? Menaka came and he saw the fish copulating first? No, it was Menaka. Was sent, is it Vishwamrita, who was meditating underwater? Yeah, it was Vishwamrita meditating, to be found in the pages of Bhagavatam. Meditating underwater. So I guess it was you're not disturbed. But Menaka came and distracted him and he discharged semen. Have I got that right? Or who made? No, I haven't got that right. There was the sage who saw the fish copulating underwater, and his mind became bent, and he passed semen and lost his potency. I forget the name of that sage. Huh? Saubhara Muni. There it is. So even you're meditating under the water, there's going to be some distraction, But in the age of Kali, very quickly, one can take up the chanting of Hare Krishna. One doesn't have time to fall down. The longer you go, the more likely you're to make a mistake. So you just seriously dive in. We should take it very seriously. We have been given a fantastic, it's like winning the lottery, $32 million or whatever it is, and you just, there it is. All of a sudden you go from a pauper to a prince. So here we are, and just surrender to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his representatives. Follow simply. Chant the holy name. We don't need to chant the song of Lord Shiva. We have the Maha Mantra. It's more, what is it? In the Bhagavatam, Krishnadas Kaviraj gives the example of you have molasses, sugar, you have sugar cane juice, you cook it, it becomes molasses, you cook it more, it becomes gore, you cook it more, it becomes more and more refined, it eventually becomes rock candy, and ultimately Krishnadas Kaviraj says it becomes lozenge, pure sugar lozenge. By condensed, it becomes the pure thing. So all these different mantras we read, all the different, Valmiki was chanting this, Ramanujacharya, there, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudeva, so many different mantras are there, but they're all cooked down and condensed in the 16-word, 32-syllable Hare Krishna mantra. It's got everything. So it's just perfectly designed. Prabhupada says when you go into a pharmacy, there's so many medicines. Do you pick this medicine because it smells nice? Well, this one's cheap. I'm on a budget. I'll get the discount model. Or do you think, well, this one's more expensive, better I buy this one? Or they used to have those old apothecary jars. What were they called? They had the colored jars in the old pharmacies, Well, I like that color. That looks pretty good. Is that how you get medicine? How do you decide? If you have an ailment, what do? Bhakti Alex, do you just walk down to the pharmacy and says, oh, that looks good, I'll take that one? You see a doctor and you get prescription. And then when you get the prescription, what do? Hey, I want 4 pills a day. I'm in a rush, man. I'm going to take 10. Glug, 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 glug. I'll get done 4 times faster, 4.5, whatever, 2.5 times faster. Does it work like that? What do you have to do? You just follow the instructions. Again, like the guy saw on the thing. It's the most difficult thing in the world. So the simple point is, we have the example of the prachetas. It does require austerity. This same word, tapa, where else? So close to home. What Mahajan, and we're not talking about Dhruva Maharaj, what Mahajan, our neighbors are restless, performed this same thing, tapa, to become realized. Brahma. And he searched around, he climbed down the lotus, by his own by his own inspection. He tried to find all of a sudden, here he is on this lotus. Well, it must, a flower he climbs down the lotus trying to find the source, can't find it, can't suss out the source. And here's tapa. So he sits down quiet. That was one of the points I want to make. He sits down quietly and meditates, and it becomes revealed. So we have to simply follow. We can't even sit in the temple room till 6 o'clock in the morning. That used to be Tirtha Maharaj's, standard. I'm not everybody. Vijay gets his rounds done before japa, and Balaram's exemplar. If he's not here, he's on the altar. I don't want to pick on anybody. But if we accept, like what do you connect the dots? When you're a kid, you ever do a connect the dot thing? And it makes a picture of whatever it makes a picture of. So if we just connect the dots, we have to follow. That's how we're going to be successful, just like the prachetas. We have to follow. And who do we follow? We have to follow a Mahajan, someone who actually knows. Okay? And we have to follow simply. We don't concoct, mix, match, scramble up. We have to be serious. We have to put a solid effort into it. And because the Maha Mantra is the Maha Mantra, we will get the same result even faster than singing the song of Lord Shiva. So we should appreciate the potency of this sitting together. We will not become Krishna conscious alone. Prabhupada said anyone who thinks they'll become Krishna conscious outside of ISKCON is living I think he says a hallucination. Living in a hallucination, or the same thing, living in illusion. We have to do it together. You're not going to do it on your own. For those online heroes who wake up early in the morning and follow the program because they're not near a temple, I offer my deep respect. But the fact of the matter is, Sangha, Satoverte, following the footsteps of the saintly persons, and Sadhu Sangha. These are the things we need to do. So we have everything. Rise early in the morning, combine together here, chant nice japa at Brahma Muhurta early in the morning. It will give you, it is the tailor-made process. It is the crash course. It is the rocket ship, out of this material world. Instead of trying to get there in an air balloon or whatever it is, it's the rocket ship. And we have to take it. Chant nice japa in the morning together in the temple room. Otherwise, the mind is spinning. What do you have to go check your email at 7 o'clock, 6 o'clock in the morning? What earth-shattering event has occurred? Okay. So we can end there because we're over time. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.